Good day, beautiful souls. I hope everybody's doing fantastic as we get ready to once again feed that prediction addiction and review this past week's events and how they relate to past predictions. Starting with this huge uptake in earthquake activity, just as Spirit warned for us to expect in the coming weeks. It's just hit a little bit sooner than I actually expected. And not to mention, I also had this really powerful dream the other night over the weekend that I did a short video on yesterday, so be sure to check that out. And this was more than just a dream to me. This was definitely something prophetic. Something that I really hope isn't prophetic, but likely truly is. This uptake in earthquakes has only just begun, friends. Only just begun, and soon they are going to intensify even more, and I'm going to share my feelings with all of that today. Not only that, Spirit has been telling us about these sleeping giants. Not like ho-ho-ho green giant, but giants like volcanic giants, reawakening in the realm of these volcanoes. We saw this awakening of the giant volcanic eruption that for the first time in centuries that happened in Russia a few months back. And yet we have more that are about to awaken, including some visions that I had of where they're going to hit and potentially when they may hit. I feel there is this coming threat, aside from earthquakes and volcanoes. I feel like there's this coming threat here, right here in the United States of America, that is about to take place, perhaps by the end of October, but more likely in the month of November. I feel this all aligns with my past predictions around the New York City, my predictions around Chicago, the Jeffrey Files, if you know what I mean, and many others. And I feel it's really important to go over all of these today as November approaches. It's right around the corner, friends. It'll be here before you know it. And the energies, they are about to intensify to a point of going off the wall intensification. That's all going to start actually next week. And then even more so when we step into the realm of November and right around November 9th. I discovered something, speaking of discoveries and things, around the 3-1 Atlas, also known as 3I Atlas, SI Atlas, goes by lots of names, but we'll just call it Atlas, flying through our galaxy currently heading towards the sun. And what I learned, because I did a video on this last week, but what I learned this time is wild. Definitely something that you are going to want to hear today, because there's no coincidences, as you know. And what aligns with where this comet is passing and the planets it's passing and the dates in which it's passing is astonishing, amazing discovery made by actually a well-known author and inventor. And it's truly an amazing analogy, I can talk, that he made that I'm going to share with you today. You're going to want to hear this one because it puts Atlas into this whole new category of someone trying to tell us something and let us know that they're quite aware of us and the practices that we do down here on the earth. Did the leader of China recently have a stroke, as rumors have been speculating all over the internet? Or is it just more internet rubbish? Maybe even some propaganda of some sort. I predicted downfalls in many of the leaders, and I told you many leaders are going to fall out of place. Many of them due to their health, and some just a complete fall of these leaders. I have a list of some of those leaders that aren't going to be here much longer. I don't know how much longer, but I know the leaders that are about to fall. And things are about to change on our planet on a major, major scale. And it will be, in the long run, for the best of us all and the best of the entire planet. Something that definitely needs to take place. But before then, things are going to escalate in the way of conflicts, especially in Europe. So do you think that ceasefire in Israel will actually last? And could it be potentially possible that a tactic nuke is going to be used soon, as I saw in past visions going back several years ago? And if so, where is it going to be used? I have some inclination on that today and some intuition on that. And also the fact of whether we will ever see peace. Will we get peace a chance? Now the markets and cryptos, of course, dropped once again, likely due to the escalation of trade wars with China, while gold, once again, and silver reached these all-time highs. As I said, I told you I saw gold last week hitting at least $4,444. think this morning it was almost at $4,200. That's huge. While at the same time, its partner, silver, when I looked this morning, and I'm recording this on Monday the 13th, hit just over $50 an ounce. $50 an ounce for silver. So is that going to continue to rise while crypto and stock markets continue to fall? President Trump just approved a road in Alaska that is really greatly going to affect the land and the people and the animals. So is this all just about money? Follow that trail, friends. Follow that trail, including the diversions that they have made recently in the Jeffrey files. So was Charlie Kirk and that whole incident that happened there on September 10th just a diversion to divert us away from the potential involvement that the president may have in those files? I have no doubt. Lots to discuss today, friends, including some really wild ghost pictures that I want to share with you. So get yourself that teapot whistling because, friends, this is episode number 187 of Tuesday's Tittle Tea Time, baby. Once again, I welcome you all to this week's edition of Tea Time and hope you all had a great week and a fantastic weekend. The energies were much lighter over the past week, especially over the weekend. I hope they felt much lighter for you too. Felt like it gave us a little bit of a breather before we step into these intense energies that are going to come rolling in, especially next week when we step into that pre-shadow of that wretched Mercury retrograde, and that happens and begins all on the 21st. But it's not so wretched because we also do have the new moon kicking in on that same day. And we'll talk about more about that next week. But just yesterday, October 13th, when I am actually recording this content on Monday the 13th, you're seeing it on Tuesday, we had Venus entering into the sign of Libra, the balancing of the scales. And we also have Pluto going direct into the sign of Aquarius, which is a time to bring some more balance into our lives. And upon the planet, we can all agree that the planet and all needs much more balance. This opens up this window of deep transformation, especially within this next few weeks coming up, leading up to next week's new moon. A lovely new moon it is going to be this round too, not as intense as the past few new moons have been. And it is in the new moon in the sign of Libra. Venus is going to bring in this smooth, harmonizing, and beautiful energy, while Pluto is going to push this energy of radical change, structural transformation, and a powerful rebalancing that's going to be taking place, that's already starting to take place. So Venus in Libra is all about balance, all about fairness, all about relationships and the equilibrium between relationships. So it favors compromise over conflict, something we definitely need right now. This transit's going to encourage us to look at what really makes relationships fair. What makes them fair, what makes them equitable, and what makes them respectful. Partnerships are going to be emphasized. This could also help to smooth out a lot of disagreements, whether it's disagreements in your relationships and friendships or disagreements across the globe. Disagreements in seeking more diplomatic solutions, or basically meeting in the middle. It's a good alignment, definitely something we need right now, especially being they're trying to call for peace in the Middle East. But again, this alignment in transit's only there for a certain period of time, and then when it exits, will we go back to conflict, especially in the Middle East? The challenge with this transit, or this shadow effect, is not to attempt to gloss over the deeper issues in order to keep the peace. And that's what we see really happening technically, totally glossing over the deeper issues, making it act like they're really not there, calling for peace and keeping the peace, and that's only going to last so long, friends. Only going to last so long. Also, there's this tendency for fake harmony, or to avoid these difficult truths that people don't want to face. So this could likely have you feeling more charming. So if you're charming, get out there and charm some folks, friends. More socially graceful and more drawn to connect with other people, to get out, connect with others, to meet new people, to meet new friends. And we can see that even working on a global stage where more leaders and such are drawn together to work together. So it could be a really good thing. It's a great time for projects and to start projects, especially projects connected to art, design, beauty, fashion, architecture, your interior, harmony, fixing up the house, fixing up the office. Great time for all that, especially as we step into that new moon next week. It's also a great time to attend social gatherings, engagements, or to have your own social gathering, your own little party. Great time over this next few weeks. Now, the Pluto indirect with Aquarius, that's going to reveal things that lie beneath the surface, hidden structures of power, control, corruption, and shadow forces. And we know we got a lot of shadow forces working on this planet. And with Pluto and Aquarius, we are likely, no doubtedly, going to see upheavals and transformations in how our global infrastructure is being organized or how it's not being organized. Whether it be with data, social media, surveillance, or even blockchain. And those that don't know what blockchain is, that would be like cryptocurrencies. That is referred to as blockchain. So we're going to see a lot going on with that in the coming weeks. The presence is bound to catalyze this shift in our collective awareness, all together, all of us. And we need those shifts in those collective awareness. We need to be awakened on new levels. So this is going to push us to this question, to begin questioning these old norms, these old normals, and imagine new social paradigms as we are stepping into a whole new paradigm in the coming months, especially when we step into 2026. So being Pluto is all about destroy and then regenerate, knock it down, then rebuild it. Then we have Aquarius that's all about freedom, all about collective revolution. This transit is going to, well, it can, but definitely will, accompany many social upheavals. And we've seen protests, as I predicted, on levels, amazing levels already this year, and even just in the past month or two. But this is going to escalate that even more. More and more major protests are going to break out. Protests, reform movements, and systems that have become very rigid, oppressive, or outdated. And it's time for those outdated. Remember, we are in the 9 year of endings, the 9 year of completions. So the old systems, they need to be put to rest. And new things need to go into place. And that's happening. And then we have the Atlas, which I'll talk about in a little bit. That's very symbolic of what's coming and what's going on right now in the world. Now, the negative or the dark side of this transit can really push towards dehumanization or the misuses of technology. Technology for control, which we're seeing with things like AI, surveillance states, pushing the digital ID. We see them pushing the digital ID, or even these extremist ideologies justified by this collective good. Oh, it's for the good of all, right? It's for the good of you. You know, in the past, if we look at the past at this transit brought with it a lot of periods of revolution. And we feel that revolution upon our doorsteps. In the past, it brought along with it a lot of social transformation and movements in destabilizing these old power structures. And now we have the 9 energy working with that. So there's definitely this destabilization of these old power structures that's taking place and going to take place. Now remember, Pluto represents the things that lie below, things that lie beneath the surface. So therefore, this is bound to bring things to the surface, whether these be truths being divulged in all sectors of the world, or even things below the surface of the earth. So this will even bring about more magma, which when it comes to the surface becomes lava. So we're going to see that coming to the surface, which brings in major volcanic eruptions. On a different note, this also brings along this exposure when it comes to, say, underground tunnels. And if you know my past predictions, I talked about underground tunnels and things being exposed. This transit's definitely going to encourage that to become a possibility, very strong possibility. This also, I have this feeling that we're going to see this potential of not just underground tunnels, but I have this feeling that there's going to be some type of an underground city or underground structure that's going to be leaked out or discovered. Well, discovered first, of course, suddenly and randomly, and then leaked out to the masses because, of course, my feeling is that the globalists or the governments don't want you to know about these underground tunnels or structures or cities. So that's going to be really interesting. We may even find out about some underground or beneath the surface pyramid structures. That just came to my mind. So I would imagine we're going to definitely be seeing that. Another thing that just comes to mind is the Arctic and structures in the Arctic being exposed beneath the surface. So therefore, my feeling is that there's going to be some type of a large melting of ice on part of the Arctic that's going to end up revealing more things that are beneath the surface of the ice. Maybe even things that are beneath the surface of the waters. So therefore, we could find new discoveries beneath the ocean. Even new discoveries within a lake or any body of water. Remember, it's all below the surface. We're going below the surface. It's going to be really interesting because so many things are going to be leaked and discovered suddenly and randomly. And interesting revelations, friends, are now on our doorsteps. Now, coming up on the 17th, we have the Sun in Libra squaring Jupiter in Cancer. Another water sign, friends. Another water sign. We've been talking a lot about water the past month or two. The Sun in Libra's aspect is going to emphasize identity, will, self-expression, leadership through relationships, and this whole sense of being fair. Fair to one another and this whole energy of fairness. The Sun itself seeks out balance, seeks out harmony, seeks out diplomacy, balance, social grace. So it's a really good transit to come into play. Now, Jupiter in Cancer is a very powerful, powerful placement. Jupiter is exalted in Cancer. It pushes it even harder. It really feeds it a lot, meaning that its qualities of expansion, growth, and abundance are especially strong in the Cancer realm. And the Cancer realm, of course, is filled with emotional depth. Cancers are all about home, family, nurturing and nurturance, security, caring for others. That's your typical Cancer, for sure. I'm a Cancer moon myself. It's good to know what your moon sign and ascendant is, by the way. You can look online and do that for free. Just Google free natal chart. Type it in, look at your ascendant, also known as the rising. Look at your moon sign. It can describe a whole lot more about you. Now, this transit's going to be in the 90-degree mark. And that's a very tense aspect, a challenge or pressure between the two planetary energies, which often forces us to grow. It's like this forceful energy forcing us to grow. It forces growth, and it forces growth sometimes, often, sadly, through conflict. Sometimes we have to go through conflict in order to grow from it. Whether it be conflict, friction, or overextension. Relationships could also be stressed with expectations to become more inflated. So watch those relationships. Remember, it's all that Libra balance too, and balancing things out. This is when governments or institutions will begin to push these ambitious, very ambitious social agendas. They'll be pushing them outward, such as, say, growth, reform, expansion, infrastructures, while at the same time, they're going to be neglecting the emotional aspect, the emotions, the social support systems, such as, say, housing, mental illness, welfare, all those areas. So it's kind of this conflict between the expansion versus care. Big conflict, expansion versus care. We'll be seeing that. We'll be seeing that even that popped in my mind with Gaza. Big time. I mean, we probably already are in some level or another, but it'll become more visual. People will become more aware of this. And this is a time where we're going to see leaders and public figures making these very bold promises, we should know right away already that don't believe all the promises that they make. But this time they're going to make very bold promises. These grand proclamations and optimistic forecasts, while at the same time risking to actually meet them and to follow through with these, being challenged by others because of its lack of substance or not following through. And we know all about them not following through with things now, don't we? This is going to be even in our faces even more. And that's going to make people a little antsy, a little maybe angry, because they're going to fall very short of their promises, and they're not going to become very realistic. So a good example would be, again, the peace agreements being made in the Middle East right now, today, actually on Monday, the 13th, which I already told you in my last week, I believe it was, that certainly is not going to hold strong. It's just not. As much as we would like it to, it's just not right now. Yes, but just not now. Because this transit does have many potential benefits, many potential good benefits too, such as heightening your ambition or your empathy, expansion of your emotional intelligence, becoming more in tune with your emotions, and believe it or not, lots of healing through confrontation. Sometimes there has to be confrontation or argument before healing comes from it. So make sure that you do not overcommit yourself in this time period, or you're going to end up bringing yourself, into a place that you're going to regret. So do not overcommit to things, and over, say, the next few weeks, I would say till the end of November, actually. Do not overcommit. Take it really, really slow, and beware of being disappointed in yourself from, because you didn't meet your expectations. Don't be disappointed in yourself. Remember, we are going into Mercury retrograde. That does cause a lot of delays in things. So take it slow. Flow with the energy. And remember, Cancer is a water sign. So think of it that way. And you want to flow with the water. You want to flow with the tide. You do not want to fight the current. You fight the current, you're going to wear out, and you might end up drowning. So, and as I've warned in the October forecast, this just adds more energy to the power of waters, whether it be the ocean, the rivers, even your pipes, water systems, water supplies. So there, in turn, we're going to see more and more bigger storms developing in the coming weeks, flooding, and even tsunami-related events. We're seeing flooding right now in the West, out in Arizona and that area of the West. The East Coast right now, New Jersey's flooding. That's going to go all the way up the East Coast towards Boston, Maine. Lots of big flooding there. It hasn't hit there yet, but it's going to. The East Coast is definitely dealing with lots of flooding, and this is going to be something that's going to continue to heighten across the globe. I haven't looked at the flooding in other countries, but I'm assured that there's definitely flooding happening right now. Remember also, Cancer is the most psychic of the zodiac. Most psychic and the most sensitive to other people's energies and emotions. That's why we say do not overreact, especially to your emotions. Because Cancers can hold it in. Scorpios can be worse with that until they burst. But they hold in their emotions. So again, do not overreact to those emotions. And make sure you tap into your intuition, being that Cancer is the most psychic and intuitive of the zodiac. And that's followed by Scorpio and Pisces. Take time to meditate. Take time to tap into your intuition. Remember, your first instinct is always 100% correct. That is your intuition. That intuition comes from a source. That source is your guardian angels and spirit guides. So go with it. It will never do you wrong. Tap into it. Meditation and dedication is really the key to really working with that intuition and to really ground your energy and flow through these emotions that are coming up. When these emotions do come up, flow through them by channeling those emotions into something more positive. Do something that brings you joy and happiness, even if it's eating a piece of chocolate or something. Channel those emotions, whether they're positive, negative, but channel those emotions, especially the negative emotions. And remember, also pay very close attention to your dreams. I told you I had a very prophetic dream about this major earthquake, very detailed, unlike any of my normal dreams. So this is what's happening. If you remember a while back, maybe in October's forecast perhaps, don't recall, Spirit said that there would be an intensifying of our dreams and also people having prophetic dreams, dreams of the future and future events. And someone told me on, what was it, Sunday, one of my events, because I was talking about my dream of the earthquake, and they had a very similar dream on the same night. When did I have that dream? I think I had that dream Saturday night. Yeah, Saturday night I had that dream. And someone at my event explained that they had a very similar dream on that same night. So did you have some type of potential prophetic dream on Saturday night? What would that have been? That would have been the 11th? Oh yeah, 10-11. There's that 11 vibration, that angelic. I didn't even think of that. So if you did have some type of dream that you think may be prophetic, do let us know in the comments down below. And remember again, pay close attention to your dreams. Write them down. They're likely going to be very revealing. It may not be prophetic to world events. It may be more prophetic and revealing to things that are happening in your life. And that's going on now through the end of November. I want to take a moment to welcome you to my channel and back to my channel. My name is Joseph Tittel, aka Spiritman JT, spiritual medium for more than 3 decades. And if you're new here, again, welcome. If you want accurate predictions, prophecy, truth, great content, you want to vibe with this awesome tribe, do smash that subscribe, the bell, and all so that you get notifications. Also, it always is helpful to hit that thumbs up love button because that'll put other content like this on your feed. It will also make sure, hopefully, that you will get the notifications because people don't always get the notifications. And know that I am here each and every week, usually on Tuesdays, unless there's a delay and it's Wednesday, which actually, come to think of it, next week, I will not be here on Tuesday. Remember that. I will not be here next week on Tuesday. I perhaps may show up on Wednesday, Thursday at the latest, but I'll be traveling and doing things and I will not be available on Tuesday. But I'm shooting for Wednesday for sure, so keep an eye out for that. Also down below in the description, you'll find the links to all my social media links, including the Subscribe Star Awaken Your Spirit community of supporters who help make all this free content possible for everybody else. Including, if you're on YouTube, down below you'll see Join. You can join as a monthly supporter. Besides being an amazing subscriber of the tribe, you can be a monthly supporter to help make more of this free content possible for everybody else. So thanks to all those who make this content possible with infinite love and gratitude. Shall we move on now to episode 187 of Tuesday's Tittle Tea Time. Let us start first with this big uptick that is happening in earthquake activity, just as Spirit warned for us to expect in the coming weeks. Personally, I just expected it to be a little later, not so soon, but I guess Spirit don't mess around now, do they? Not to mention this very visual dream I told you that I had of this big, huge earthquake taking place, which I believe, I narrowed it down that it's somewhere along the coast of California. I could be wrong, but check out the other video I do on this and perhaps we can analyze and predict exactly where this earthquake's going to hit in the near future. I would believe in the near future. I mean, I didn't get a time or a date in that dream, but I have no doubt that that was a prophetic dream. So be sure to check out that video and leave comments down below in the description. This uptick in earthquakes has only just begun, and soon it is going to intensify even more. As of this morning, when I looked at the earthquake map on Monday the 13th, there were 154 4.5 or higher earthquakes over the past week. That is a very obvious uptick in the quake activity, when the usual average would usually always be below 100, usually between like 75 and 85, sometimes even lower than that. But it's at 154, so that's quite an uptick, and I could see it going well past 200 and some, just like it did when that Russian volcano started to erupt a few months back. So one of the places that I recently warned and continue to warn is the Philippines, where they had two very big earthquakes that just hit. 7.4, I forget what the other one was, but I do know that more than 500 structures and homes collapsed. It unleashed at least 2 tsunami warnings. Luckily for them, they didn't get no big tsunami. They definitely lucked out this time, but I don't feel like they're going to luck out so much the next time. This includes Indonesia too. They also had those same warnings and tsunami warnings. Those two places were the two places I've been warning for quite some time. Indonesia, Philippines, and I saw something big in the way of tsunamis hitting the Philippines and in between that area. Philippines and parts of even the lower parts of Japan. So are we heading towards that? I have no doubt we're definitely heading towards that. And I would think something really major is going to happen when we hit the month of November. Remember, November for 2025 is the 11 vibration. In numerology, we're in a 9-year in numerology, universally. And you add that to the month. So 9 plus 1 is an 11. You always break it down to one digit, except when you get the 11 or the 22. We always look at that first. The 11 is all about major spiritual energy, angelic energies. And then, we know the global elite like to use that number 11. We have 911. We have a lot of things that happen on the 11th date if you look it up. So we only get that once every 9 years, the 11 in the month of November. And then it's the Mercury retrograde. We have all these transits coming in. It's just good. And it's the 9 years. It's going to be very powerful. And mostly in good ways, too. Not all necessarily gloom and doom or negativity. It's about spiritual ascension. It's about shifting everything. And we have that whole thing happening with SI or 3I Atlas or 3-1 Atlas. People are calling it all something different. We'll just call it Atlas. So 2 warnings that went to... remember, Spirit, if I do recall, Spirit told us in the way of tsunami warnings that there would be 2 warnings, and then the third, people should take very seriously. So there were 2 warnings in Indonesia, and I don't know if there were 2 at the other place, but there were 2 warnings there. And being Philippines is a place that I've been pointing to for quite some time where those warnings really were ignited. I would say the third one is probably going to be the one to take very seriously. So yes, there's much more coming to the Philippines and our friends on the Philippine island and that region of the globe entirely. Another place hit really hard by a 7.8 quake was the Drake's Passage. That Drake's Passage, if you're not aware, is just below Chile, the point of South America. Right below that, I should have to pull up the map, is the area of Papua New Guinea and that whole area and strip of islands that I've been also pointing to in many of my videos, including my map scrying video. And that was just right above that. And that also set off tsunami warnings, and they also really lucked out this time. But I doubt that they're going to be so lucky in the next round. These are all just warnings. This is Mother Earth just shaking. Those shakes are going to get much bigger. And that quake at the tip of South America, again, even set off tsunami warnings for Hawaii. But very short. It was like, no, Hawaii's fine. I mean, it's pretty far away from Hawaii, but there were still, concerns about it, as they should be. They are in a little island. But as I told you in the past, I don't see Hawaii going anywhere. Spirit told me a long time ago that Hawaii is the center of the earth. If anything, Hawaii would get bigger and things would come out of the water before it would get smaller or risk anything. We'll see volcanic eruptions there, but that's not uncommon for Hawaii at all. Now, we seem to have slipped through the cracks this time when it comes to luck, but in accordance to Spirit, in the October's forecast, things are going to heighten even more so in late October when we move into especially November. Now remember, that Jupiter transit that I was telling you about, that is all going to help us to focus on things that are below the surface. And that includes things that are below the earth and things coming to the surface. That's what Jupiter does. It brings things to the surface. Things from below get exposed, whether it be truth, whether it be things underground, like again, volcanoes, tunnels, underground structures, underwater discoveries, major underwater discoveries. And as I said earlier, things like in Antarctica being exposed as ice begins to melt. Or even, we can even say there could even be an earthquake that happens in Antarctica or the upper region of Alaska that also exposes things. And nowadays, it's going to be much, much harder for these globalists to cover things up like they usually do. So things below the surface of the earth and things coming to the surface. This, of course, is going to include volcanoes. Volcanoes and this lava gushing through the earth's surface. So I just had this feeling, this very sudden feeling, that Yellowstone National Park is soon going to see things bursting to the surface. Now, there's not going to be a super volcano, so don't worry about that. Not in our lifetimes, not in Yellowstone. But there are going to be things that are going to burst in Yellowstone National Park in the near future. And this actually goes back to some of my past predictions where I saw temporary closures to parts of Yellowstone Park. And I expect this to hit in the coming weeks, perhaps again in the month of November. It's going to be a very active month. Now, Spirit has been telling us about these sleeping giants that we're going to reawaken. Sleeping giants meaning volcanoes that have been inactive and maybe never thought to be active again. Now, we just saw a couple months ago the reawakening of that giant in Russia a few months back, and that was big. And that's still setting off tons and tons of earthquake activity. Not big earthquake activity, but that was the first big giant to reawaken. Now, on Sunday, tourists were hit with hot ash. Could you imagine? That'd be awful. Hot ash from the, hopefully I pronounce this right, the Wakari volcanic blast. Now, a similar eruption happened at the Wakari volcano in 2019, and that was actually responsible for claiming 22 lives. Big deal. So they also kind of lucked out this round. Notice how they all kind of lucked out quite a bit. Now, the Philippines didn't with the damage that was caused by their earthquake. But they still lucked out from the tsunamis. Them, Indonesia, and even the lower part where the Drake's Passage is. So it seems like Mother Earth's preparing us for something much, much bigger. They also, I suddenly actually see this eruption. I suddenly see this eruption taking place between Italy and Greece. Italy and Greece in the near future. I see temporary evacuations from this earthquake that are going to follow, and from this volcanic eruption. And someone stated in the comments last week, or recently in the past couple days, that a giant awoke on October 3rd in Russia. I looked that up and they got that date completely wrong. The only giant that awoke in Russia was the one we just talked about, and that was a couple months ago. And that was the first time in centuries that volcano has awoken. And soon, Spirit says, 2 other sleeping giants are about to awaken. And I also feel that Russia volcano is about to bring about another huge blast. So I told you before that Russia volcano and that the earthquakes in that area are not finished. That was just the first big awakening of that giant. There's another awakening of that giant coming. Now, I have seen visions of such a massive volcanic eruption, like massive, that darkens the skies for folks that are nearby this. Blocks out their sun for quite some time. This kind of reminds me of the huge Mount St. Helens blast. When was that? In the 1980s, I believe it was. When folks had to shovel ash, like it was a blizzard of snow, shoveling it into trucks to get rid of all the ash. So if I have that memory and that vision, then I would say that this big volcanic eruption that darkens the skies coming in the near future is going to be huge, like that 1980s eruption of Mount St. Helens. And I've been telling you that a large eruption would occur within the United States. And I feel that there are going to be 2. One not quite as large as the first. One not quite as large as the first. I guess the first is going to be the big one. The first will be the big one. And perhaps it could be Mount St. Helens, because Mount St. Helens was in my past predictions, in my channel predictions, where Spirit said that would reawaken. I mean, not that it's been asleep very long. Would that be? It's not even, 30, 40 years, something like that. So it's not that long. So it's just a reawakening of a not sleeping giant, I guess we could say. Now, also, I feel like there's going to be a huge eruption in Alaska. And I've been saying that, and that's been in channel predictions as well. Now, this one's new, because this one, I feel the next big eruption too that's coming is going to be somewhere between Iceland and Greenland. Again, I didn't look at the map. I should have pulled up the map, but I didn't have time. And I feel like that particular volcanic eruption that happens between Iceland and Greenland is going to be accompanied by very large earthquakes that will cause quite a bit of structural damage in those areas. Could also bring about tsunami warnings and maybe even small tsunamis. We are stepping in, friends, to that very intense window that I discussed in my 2025 forecast and predictions. And all these transits that are happening in place, the Jupiter transit and all the water signs that we have going on right now, we are certainly about to witness some very historic Earth-related events, so hold on tight. Because this roller coaster ride is about to take off again, friends. Hold on tight. And if you haven't noticed, I am not in my normal studio today because I am away and I am in the yoga studio at Dr. B's. But moving on to our next subject, because I've been feeling really, really strongly that this coming threat is coming here in the United States. I've been feeling it for a couple years now. But that feeling's getting much stronger. And I feel that threat is coming and likely going to hit us in November. And I feel this aligns with many of my past predictions. Predictions around New York City, predictions I had around Chicago, where else? Chicago, perhaps Los Angeles. And then also the Jeffrey files, without saying his last name, the Jeffrey files. That's not done yet either. Did you notice? Think about this. But that whole Charlie Kirk thing, a diversion, everything's a diversion, friends, right? Because people were really, really pushing, including Charlie Kirk, really pushing for those files to be released and for the truth to be divulged around that. And I know some people aren't going to like that truth, including those that are holding that truth from us. But it seems like people aren't talking about those files much anymore, right? Everybody's talking about the whole Charlie Kirk thing still. Total diversion. How convenient. How convenient. But as I told you in the past, those files are definitely going to be, the truth will be divulged with that. And it may take a year or two before it all is, but it's definitely going to be divulged. And obviously, there has been money exchanges between our current president of the United States and Jeffrey. And I also feel, weirdly, and I don't know how, we'll have to wait until the files and all the truth comes out, but I feel like this money exchange also somehow involves Russia. I don't know how. Not sure. But it'll be very interesting to see how that plays out. Now, going back to my strong feelings that something big's coming here in the United States, first of all, I feel like, as Spirit told us, I believe a week or so ago, that we're going to see a flag that flies ever so falsely. That makes even more sense now that we have this so-called peace happening in the Middle East. But will it really be that peaceful? Could there be some type of an attack that happens in this country that gives United States and perhaps even Israel this green light to go forward in attacks on perhaps Iran? Remember, Iran is the one country that's not part of the universal banking system, the global elite's banking system. You know who was also like that? Iraq, of course. And we know what happened to them. So is it all about the money, or is it all about enriching nuclear weapons? Could be a little bit of both. I mean, they definitely have threatened our country and many others, but vice versa. The threats go both ways. So something big is coming between now and Christmas. Christmas is a date that also jumps out at me pretty strongly, but November. And I've said in the past that I've seen a big explosion happening in a building in Chicago. I said this a couple years ago. Biden was still president then. Might have even been 3 years ago. And this felt like an attack, a fear-like attack. And I saw smoke billowing into the skies from this large explosion in a building, likely some type of a hotel or something like that. I believe that could be on our doorsteps for the month of November. The other thing I saw was a vehicle filled with explosives heading through the tunnel into New York City, using this vehicle basically as a missile of sorts, a missile on wheels. I feel like this could be a simultaneous thing happening in this country, hitting several different cities all at the same time. Now, some of this I feel will be blamed on likely Middle East or someone in the Middle East, but part of this also feels like it's going to be blamed on an organization such as, say, Antifa, because then they're going to start to use interior terror coming from within our country as a way to try to suppress our rights even more. So I put this out to you so that you're aware of this, so that when these things do happen, you're not so surprised by it and so surprised by the actual agenda that is placed behind these coming events. I also talked to you last week about the drone activity picking up once again here in Pennsylvania and New Jersey, where I am currently. Someone gave me this idea this morning that I thought was interesting with the drone thing. Because my friend told me they're flying in a grid, like in a grid pattern, straight grid pattern. So perhaps, speculation here, they're putting out the grid pattern for when they use drones to deliver food through Amazon and Walmart and all that. That's more hopeful thinking than the drones being present because they're looking for something, or they're preparing for something, preparing for a scare or a fear attack, or who knows. That's my first gut instinct. I told you that last year before it even happened. Spirit told us to get ready, the skies will be invaded, and then they were. And I think it was in October of last year. Was it October or early November? I think it started in October. And here we are in October, and it's starting again. So I want to know if you're seeing these drones and this uptick in drone activity where you live. If you live outside of Pennsylvania, are you seeing it in Jersey, New York? Are you seeing it in your country, whatever country you may be residing in? Inquiring minds want to know. We have to stick together and let each other know what's going on and where it's going on at. Because drones, of course, are the new type of warfare that they're using. We see it happening on the battlefields big time. So again, I feel, and I'm sure you're feeling it too, that something very big is on our doorsteps. Something that likely will ignite a new conflict. This also brings back my visions of seeing people fleeing a big city, which could be, again, going back to Iran. Because if you think that that's done with, think again. Things are going to escalate even more. And chances are they're going to blame one side when another side may actually be the guilty side. So remember, your intuition's heightened right now to an amazing level, especially if you're staying grounded and centered, and especially if you're utilizing meditation to the best of your advantage. Listen to your gut. Go with your first instinct. And remember, don't jump to conclusions. Don't overreact, because I told you with the transits in place last week that are currently in place now. Overreacting, you're going to end up regretting or end up being wrong about it afterwards. So we have to just sit back and relax. Kind of like the Charlie Kirk thing, people overreacted, assumed, jumped to conclusions, and now we found out more and more information, and we continue to find more information about that. But what we need to find more information about is those Jeffrey files. And soon, that's all going to come to the surface, because Jupiter is bringing things to the surface. I discovered something really interesting that I think you're going to definitely want to hear about today. Something new, completely new, around the whole Atlas alleged comet that's going and flying through our galaxy at high speeds, heading towards the sun. And what I learned is pretty wild, friends. Pretty wild. I have to remember what the channel was that I watched it on. But you can look this up for yourself. It's wild. And it's definitely, again, something that you want to hear today. Many folks are discussing this amazing discovery that was made by this very well-known author and inventor, David Sereda. Are you familiar with David Sereda? He's my friend on Facebook and has been for a really long time, actually. David Sereda creates these amazing, a little pricey, but amazingly powerful crystal energy copper things. You just got to go check them out. I think his website might even be davidsereda.com. He did this interview on, I think, the podcast YouTube channel's Leak Project. I think it's the Leak Project. And I usually, when I watch a podcast, I can't watch the whole thing. I watch it in increments, and I was hooked on listening to this. Because David Sereda is extremely intelligent, super intelligent. And here's what he discovered. And go look this up. Listen to the whole interview yourself, because there's a lot to it. I'm only going to give you a briefing on this. What he has discovered is that as SI or 3I Atlas, 3-1 Atlas, whatever you want to call it, passes each planet that it's passed so far, it's passing these planets on an exact specific religious holiday. And not one particular religion either. All religions. Let's look at October 1st and 2nd, when we had the 3-1 Atlas going by the planet Mars. We were all excited for that because we have the Mars rover and the Mars high-definition cameras all sitting there waiting to take pictures. And, of course, on October 1st, the government shut down, which means that shut down NASA and our ability to see these pictures. They did release a picture last week, but only the ones from the rovers, which are low quality in comparison to the high-definition ones that we know they have on Mars. So it's very pixelated. And if you watch that interview with David Sereda on the Leak Project, he'll explain it to you. This isn't a rock. It's not shaped like a rock. They tell us it's as big as Manhattan, but according to Sereda, it's way bigger than that. Maybe even the size of New York. He said it's gigantic. It's huge by the calculations. Again, this man's very smart with mathematics and just intuition, all the above. What happened when it passed Mars? What holiday was that? It was Yom Kippur, right? That was the Jewish holiday. Now, don't quote me on the planets, but I'm just going to give you examples of some of the things he said. For example, say when it passed Venus, or when it does, or if it did already, not sure, it passed it on one of the planets, or maybe it was Pluto, I can't remember. But one of the planets it passed on the exact day of the feast of the Holy Mary, Mother of God, Mother Mary's feast. Another time it passed the next planet on a Muslim holiday. It's going to pass another planet on the winter solstice, December 21st. And again, there's a lot to this. He followed every planet and every direction that it's going in, and each one is a different religious holiday. Basically, his whole analogy of this is that whoever's controlling this, or whatever is controlling this, because remember, it's not going straight line like a comet's supposed to. It's making turns. It's being directed. And it's specifically passing over planets on specific holidays. And as David said in the interview, 1 or 2 planets, yeah, we can write it off as a coincidence. But every single planet that it's passing on a specific religious holiday, whether it be a Muslim holiday, a Christian holiday, a pagan holiday, a Catholic holiday. Very, very interesting, and no coincidences. So he determined that whatever this is, they're basically letting us know that they are aware of the Earth's world religions. I don't believe in coincidences. I'm sure you don't either. And maybe if it was 1 or 2 planets, like David said, we can write it off as coincidence. Not every single planet that it passed and that it's going to pass in the near future. There's just absolutely no way. And they're trying to tell us something. And of course, some people think it's a hologram, but it's way out in outer space. It can't be a hologram out in outer space. If it was in our sky, then yeah, maybe it could be. It's not. It's real. And it's composed of, they say, nickel, which nickel reflects kind of like silver or stainless steel. It reflects things, and it's about to go behind the sun for, I think, the whole month of November, perhaps. I think it goes behind the sun for like a month, and it's going to do that, I'm pretty sure, in November. There's something that happens with that around October 29th and 30th. Remember, in my October forecast, the date the 29th jumped out at me very strongly. Now, I shared a video with you on this last week where I talked about the video I watched with Linda Moulton Howe, where she said that Edgar Cayce made this prophecy of October 30th. I looked deeper into that. Sorry, Linda, but I can't find nothing on it. Nothing at all. So I'm going to say that that's some kind of internet BS. That Edgar Cayce never said that at all. And I don't remember him or Nostradamus stating specific dates. Neither one of them did. Well, I know Nostradamus didn't. Because, every year on YouTube, people release videos, Nostradamus said this is happening in 2025. No, he didn't. He didn't say years. Didn't say years at all. He used quatrains. So I'm going to assume that Edgar Cayce probably pretty similar. He might have used time frames, but then definitely didn't come up with the date October 30th, 2025. But it's interesting that she put that out there and it's out on the internet, and Spirit gave me the date October 29th. Now remember, October 29th is an 11 day in numerology. So it would be 10/11. 11's all about spiritual ascension. Again, the angelic frequency, the angelic numbers. Very powerful, very interesting. It's going to be very interesting. Something's going on around then. Now, remember in my past predictions, I talked about a flash of light coming across the planet. Not even just the planet, the whole solar system. I saw a big flash of light. This flash of light was extremely symbolic to the ascension of humanity. Now, could this atlas be going behind the sun, purposely behind the sun, as they tell us that's what it's going to do, it's going to go behind the sun and come back around? And it's nickel, which is reflective. Is it there to purposely reflect, say, sun flares that are going to be behind the sun at that exact time? That really should be facing the earth so that we get those sun flares, because sun flares often come with light codes and ascension codes, which are like computer codes that you program a computer, but instead this programs our brain. Could Atlas be going behind the sun in November? Again, that 11 vibration, there's that 11 again, specifically to reflect that flash of light. I'm going to say it's very, very possible. Very possible. And I would say at the soonest, that would be happening November, and maybe Atlas is connected to it. My other feeling is that that flash of light would likely even make more sense in 2026. 2026 is a 1 vibration. New beginnings, new starts, new everything. And there's something else going on with Atlas in February. I'm not sure what it is, but there's also a lot going on the planet Earth in February of next year. So that will be another interesting window of time. But this year, I'm going to say November is going to be the most interesting month of 2025. And that also includes, as Spirit has been telling us, an uptick in UFOs, drones. Of course, they could be throwing the drones up there to throw us off from the UFOs so we can't tell the difference. And even potential encounters with interdimensional beings, also known as aliens. It's quite exciting times, even though it may look a little gloomy or doomy, but it's quite exciting. So hold on tight again, friends. Some exciting things are about to come our way. Did the leader of China, Xi Jinping, actually really just have a stroke, as rumors have been escalating and speculating all over the internet? Or is it just more internet rubbish? Well, first of all, they wouldn't tell us if he did. So we wouldn't know that. We wouldn't know that at all here. It just wouldn't happen. And not only that, he's already still making rounds and speaking, and he's still out and about. So if he really just did have a stroke, he wouldn't be out and about still, talking and doing things that he's doing. I did predict downfalls in leaders' health, and I even includes Xi Jinping in China. And I don't see him being around much longer. There's many of them I don't feel like are going to be around much longer. I told you they are all having health issues. Not all of them, but Putin's having health issues. The leader of China is having health issues. We know that President Trump's having health issues. We don't know this yet, but Netanyahu's about to have health issues. I see all 4 of them going out of the picture in the future, very near future. I don't know how far, but out of the picture. Now, remember my original prediction from 2016 that I saw Trump winning two elections, passing the 3rd year of his 2nd term, which would be 2027. So could they all be exiting by 2027? Or are some of them about to exit really soon? I would not be surprised at all that we see these sudden drops in leaders coming up in the very near future. We also see what just happened in Venezuela and what's going on there with the shift in leader. And what's the guy's name? Maduri. Yeah, fall of power. Fall of dictators. That's the main goal here. That's part of this ascension. That's a part of probably the light, the whole Atlas thing, the transits that are going on. I also remember, we still have those same transits going on here in the United States, in the astrology of the United States, that happened during the Revolution and Civil War, during the signing of the Declaration of Independence. And all these things are stirring up again, big time. Also the same alignments that happened during the takedown of JFK, Martin Luther King, and so forth. It's all there again in the astrology for United States. Big changes are about to happen, not just in the United States, but across the globe. So again, friends, I tell you, hold on tight, because these leaders are about to drop. And they're going to drop like flies, one after another. And I feel like we could be seeing that happen likely in the month of November again. Very, very progressive, very active month. A lot of activity in the month of November. And there's this feeling I have with the leader of China that the Communist Party that rules that country is starting to question him, which means somebody there wants his position and likely is going to try to take it. At the same time, when this all happens, according to the visions I'm having right now, this is going to bring a lot of people to the streets of China. Lots of protests, lots of big things happening in China. Now over there, and our friends in Japan, they just had a change of leadership. And they have their first woman in place right there. It's all about woman power. Remember, in the age of Aquarius, it's all about balancing it out. Pouring the dark masculine energy down into the light feminine energy. And the feminine energy rising up on the planet once again, because the masculine energy has been controlling everything for way too long. And look at where that's brought us. And then eventually, once the feminine energy rises above the male energy, then it'll sink back down and bring complete balance on the planet, which isn't going to happen overnight. I'd say that's going to be between now and likely 2032. So amazing times that we're in, interesting times we're in, and for some people it's scary times. But remember, don't be scared, be prepared. Knowing about this information helps prepare you so that when it happens, it won't be so shocking. And leaders really do need to go. We do need a rise up of new leadership. And if you watched my interview with the Shaman Puma in Peru, if you missed it, be sure to watch it. He talked about that. New leaders going into place, it's already happening. It might not be the leaders of a country, but it could be the mayor, the governor, the police chief, whatever. All leaderships, because it's corrupted in all aspects. And that corruption, again, with Pluto especially, is all about to come to the surface. Another thing that I wanted to bring up today, I'm trying to keep this show as short as possible because I am out and about and traveling, is the escalation of conflicts, especially when it comes to Europe. Because there's a lot of threats going around between Russia, at least allegedly. Remember, there's a lot of propaganda, friends, a whole lot. That's why I tell you, tap into your intuition. That's going to be a part of the light codes coming in and all. It's going to get to a point where they're not going to be able to lie to us anymore. People are just going to know. We see that on a low level, but we're going to see that on an extremely high level in the coming years and in the coming weeks and months. But remember, I had a vision and I told you long ago that there will be a tactical nuke that will be used in this conflict, and I'm pretty sure it's going to be in Europe. At first, I thought maybe it would be Putin, but I don't think that now. I think it's going to be NATO. Actually, I know it's going to be NATO. And I don't know what they're going to target or what's going to happen, but I believe this could actually bring an ending to things. Because I do see an ending of Putin. And I do see the, red circle with the red line going across it, like no smoking or no this, with Putin's face in there. Which means he's going to be out of that picture sooner than we can imagine. So it's going to be interesting to see how that all plays out in the near future. On a side note here, we've had the markets and crypto drop once again. My crypto dropped the most I've seen it drop since I've been in crypto, which hasn't been that long, maybe a year and a half. It started to go up a little bit today. The markets dropped, but they also went up a little bit today. And I think that's probably because of their signing of their peace agreement today on Monday the 13th. But of course, gold and silver jumped right up first thing this morning. First thing this morning, what was gold? I forget what gold was, $4,200, almost $4,200. Remember last week I had a vision that it would soon hit $4,444. So I'm thinking that's going to hit in the month of October. Overall, I could see gold going up to $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 an ounce. So you can still invest in that. It's still a good investment. Silver is my favorite investment. And I wanted to buy some last week before I was traveling, but I wasn't going to be home to get it, and I didn't want it sitting there. Darn, I wish I could have ordered it because it's already went up a lot just in that short period of time. It was just over $50 an ounce this morning. I don't know what it is right now, and again, I'm doing this on the 13th, Monday the 13th. Over $50 an ounce. Spirit told us to invest in that 2 years ago. I'm glad I did. And you can still continue because I can continue to see silver rising up past $100 and hopefully past $200. That'd be fabulous, wouldn't it? Remember, when it comes to conflict and all these conflicts happening across the globe, they need these heavy metals. Another one I was looking at today was platinum. Platinum, I think it was, or palladium. That'd be another good one to start getting into. Because remember, they need all that to make your horrible weapons. and they need all the silver to make everything that's computer and electronic. So it's going to continue to rise. And as Spirit told us years ago when they told us to start buying silver specifically, we were told to buy silver because we were told there's going to be a shortage in it in the near future. In the future, not near future, but in the future. Could that shortage be due to conflict? Maybe something else? Regardless, it's definitely time to get in. Now, someone in the comments asked about how do you invest in crypto or how do you get involved? You have to either go to an app like Coinbase, something like that. Go to YouTube and watch some videos on it. They'll teach you all about it. And make sure that you eventually put that on a cold wallet so that it can't be hacked or taken out of those accounts. But you need an app or something like that to go on to buy these cryptos. So again, go on YouTube, do your research, watch lots of videos. I did before I got involved in it because I knew nothing about it before I got involved in it. And I still am very much with XRP, XLM, and even Bitcoin. I still feel it continuing to rise. And Bitcoin rose to a new high again over the past week, but it jumped back down again. I do eventually believe that there's going to be a big drop in it, but I don't know when. I hope the spirits give me a date because I would like to get out before and get back in after. That's the time to watch these things closely. When they hit record lows, that's when you jump in. So there's still plenty of time to make money on crypto. I wouldn't invest in physical things. I wouldn't put money in stocks. Somebody asked about putting money into silver stocks. I mean, you can. I've seen them rise over the past 2 years, big time. But I'd still invest in the actual physical silver instead. Now, how do you do that? You can go to your local pawn shop and buy silver and gold. You can also go to different websites, different bullion companies. So just Google bullion companies near you or bullion companies in general. And make sure you look at a bunch of them because I go through 3 or 4 different ones. And sometimes one's cheaper this week and the other one's cheaper next week. You gotta look at who's the cheapest one. So do your research, do that. Another thing that happened over the past weeks, President Trump approved a road in Alaska that will gravely affect the land and the animals and native lands, taking that road right through native land. And we know that's all about the money. I forget what the road's called. I looked it up, but I forget now. Follow that trail. Follow that money. It's kind of like what's happening in Gaza and their whole little agreement there. It's all these billionaires do. That's all they care about is their fine minerals and the minerals, this, that, and making more money. I can't wait till we shift into the new earth and things go in a much different direction. You know, and everything's about diversion and diverting our attention from things that we need to be really paying attention to. Again, like I said earlier, with the Jeffrey files, now we have the Charlie files. I guess we have Charlie files too because that's all being hidden and that truth, even though most of us know the truth, at least a good portion of that truth. You know, it's interesting because I never really liked, oh God, what's her name? I just drew a blank. I'm exhausted. I did big events over the weekend, amazing events. If you attended those events, thank you for coming out to the mansion. It was a lot of fun in the Haunted Mansion. Candace Owens, I knew it would come to my brain. Wasn't really a fan, could care less, care a lot. But then listening to her lately, she's on to some things, especially with the Charlie thing. You know, I don't agree with all podcasters or what they say, but she's got some really good information there. Just saying. Thought it was really interesting. And I told you about that too. The truth is going to come out about the whole Charlie thing. And it's going to blow the rooftops. Blow off the rooftops. I told you I wanted to try to keep this short. I don't think I succeeded in that today. But I do want to show you a couple really awesome, cool ghost pictures from the Summer Seat Mansion in Morrisville, PA. And thank you to Karen, who takes care of that mansion and had allowed me to host my events there this weekend. It was quite fantastic. I thought I had all 4 pictures, but I got the 2 best pictures. And I took a picture of a picture, but I thought you all would really appreciate this. The first picture that I have here was taken inside the Summer Seat Mansion right after a wedding rehearsal by the woman that was getting married. There were no kids in the mansion. There was really nobody in the mansion. There was nobody in the room other than her in the corner taking the picture. And here's the picture, and we're going to zoom in to the top to the picture on the wall. Can you see the little boy in the picture on the wall? Except there's no little boy there, friends. There ain't no little boy in that mansion. It was said that a little boy passed away from tuberculosis in that mansion. The Somerset Mansion has amazing history. George Washington stayed there multiple times. It's in Bucks County, Lower Bucks County, right down the river from where, Washington crossed the Delaware River. So much history there. That's why I love Bucks County. But going back to this picture again, the actual picture itself that the boys are reflected in, you can also, if you look closely, you'll see the swirl around his head. There's like a swirl of energy around his head. And then the picture is actually of Abraham Lincoln with his son, the son that actually passed away. If you're not familiar, Abraham Lincoln and his wife were very much into mediums. They would have mediums come into the White House and do seances in an attempt to communicate with their deceased son. There's a place in New York called Lilydale, New York, a spiritualist community that's been there for a couple hundred years, all filled with spiritualists and mediums. And Mrs. Lincoln would go there to try an attempt to communicate with her deceased son. Also, other people like Susan B. Anthony has been to Lilydale, New York. So I thought you would really, really appreciate that picture. The next picture I have here is a picture taken from the neighbor across the street. One night, he decided to take some pictures of the mansion outside. I don't know why, I didn't talk to the guy, but check out this swirl of energy. Now, I had somebody in the comments on Facebook say, look at the orb. It's not an orb. Orbs are balls of light. This is referred to as plasma. Look at that plasma swirl all around. Like, friends, you cannot rule that out. But take an even closer look at this picture to the top right corner where the green light is. If you look at the top right corner of the green light, you'll see the man's face right next to the light, right below the light. I actually thought it kind of looks like a skull, but it also reminded me of Jason Voorhees in the movies Friday the 13th. Really creepy. I will say that mansion, there is a grumpy old man in the basement of that mansion, but other than that, there's nothing nefarious or dark in that mansion. I don't know what that green thing is on the outside that looks like a skull, but it's pretty wild. But what do you think of that? And that plasma showing up in the photo. There were other photos, but I forgot to take pictures of them. Totally forgot to take pictures of them. But I love a good ghost photo. If you got a good ghost photo, let us know. And let me know what you think in the comments down below. But I'm going to leave you with that for now because I have to rock and roll out of here. So be sure to hit that thumbs up love button. And thank you to all those supporters, again, who make this free content possible for everybody else. You can join the Subscribe Store platform down below under the description of this video. You can find recommended videos in the description under this video. And you can also support this channel by becoming a member of the channel and a monthly supporter. And if you just subscribe to the channel, welcome to the tribe, friends. Welcome to the tribe. You won't be disappointed. Until the next time, friends, I hope you have an amazing week. I will not be here next week. I will not be here at least till Wednesday or Thursday of next week. I will not be here on Tuesday of the next week, what is that date? The 20th, 21st. I will not be here. The 21st is the new moon in Libra. So be sure to celebrate that. Set your intentions for the coming month because it's a very powerful time. And remember what I told you. Do things in October that you want to do more of next year because October is a reflection of next year. You want October to be your best month possible. And until then, friends, remember, be bold, be true, be kind, be you. Let your light shine ever so brightly. And have a beautiful rest of your day. And namaste and much love, friends. Much love.